Most people think building codes come from engineers, politicians, and committees. But one of the biggest changes in American construction came from a single storm. A storm so powerful that it exposed hidden weaknesses in homes, schools, and entire cities. After it passed, the United States was forced to ask a hard question. Were our buildings ever truly safe? This is the story of the tornado that changed American building codes forever. In the mid-20th century, much of America was expanding fast. New homes, new schools, new towns were popping up everywhere. Speed mattered more than strength. Many buildings were designed for comfort, not extreme weather. Roofs were lightly anchored to the walls, and walls weren't always securely connected to the foundations. Storm shelters were a rarity, not a requirement. At the time, tornadoes were seen as unpredictable, almost mythical events. Few believed they should shape national construction rules. That belief was about to be challenged in the most dramatic way possible. On what began as a calm afternoon, the weather conditions across the region began to change. Warm, moist air from the south started rising, while cold, dry air moved in above it. The winds shifted direction and began to spin. Meteorologists noticed the warning signs, but the forecasting tools of the era were limited. They could see the potential for severe weather, but they couldn't predict exactly where or when a tornado might form. As the clouds darkened, a powerful supercell thunderstorm organized, and from it, a massive tornado descended. It wasn't just in a rural area. Its path moved directly toward populated towns and neighborhoods. Within minutes, entire communities experienced forces far beyond what most structures were ever designed to handle. Roofs peeled away like in lids. Walls collapsed as if they were made of paper. Even public buildings, like schools and hospitals, suffered major structural damage. When the storm finally lifted, the landscape was almost unrecognizable. As investigators and engineers began to survey the incredible damage, a clear pattern emerged. The destruction wasn't random. Many buildings didn't fail just because the storm was strong. They failed in predictable ways. They found that roofs were often not securely tied to the walls, allowing the wind to lift them off completely. The walls themselves were not properly anchored to the foundations, making them vulnerable to being pushed over. Windows and doors, which are natural weak points, lacked the reinforcement needed to withstand the extreme pressure changes and flying debris. And large public buildings, where people sought shelter, often had no designated safe interior zones designed to withstand a total structural collapse. The engineers realized something critical. It wasn't just the storm's incredible strength that caused the devastation. It was the building's design. Homes that happened to be built with stronger connections, even by chance, performed significantly better. This discovery was a turning point. In the aftermath, federal agencies, engineers, and safety experts began detailed studies of the wreckage. For the first time, tornado damage was treated as a solvable design problem, not just an unavoidable act of nature. This shift in thinking led to a wave of new ideas. Experts proposed stronger roof-to-wall connections, using metal straps and clips to hold the structure together. They advocated for anchored foundations, ensuring the entire house was tied to the ground. The concept of interior safe areas, or safe rooms, gained traction, and they pushed for improved material standards to ensure the components of a building could handle higher stress. First, states began updating their building requirements. Then, cities and counties followed suit. Eventually, these ideas spread nationwide, becoming key components of modern building codes. A quiet revolution was happening, rewriting the rules of American construction. Today, many of the safety features you see in modern U.S. homes exist because of the lessons learned from that storm and others like it. Those small metal plates you might see in an attic connecting the roof trusses to the walls. They're called hurricane clips or straps. The reinforced framing around windows and doors, the specific requirements for bolting a house to its foundation, All of these trace back to those early investigations. The way modern schools are designed, with reinforced hallways and windowless central areas, is a direct result of wanting to protect children. Even the guidelines for dedicated storm shelters that save lives today came from this period of intense learning. Most people live in these safer homes and work in these stronger buildings and never realize why these rules exist. They assume they were always there. They weren't. They came from lessons learned the hard way. This story still matters, perhaps now more than ever. Extreme weather events are becoming more frequent and more intense. Cities continue to expand, putting more people and more structures in harm's way. The decisions made by engineers and lawmakers in the decades following that one tornado continue to protect millions of Americans today, whether they know it or not. It proves something important. Disasters don't just destroy, they teach. They force us to confront our vulnerabilities and innovate. And sometimes, by learning from the worst moments, they help us build a safer future. So the next time you step inside a modern home or a public building during a storm, take a moment to think about its structure. Its strength, its resilience, may trace all the way back to a single tornado that forced America to build smarter, stronger, and safer. Thanks for watching. If you found this story interesting, consider subscribing for more deep dives into how our world is shaped.